Hollywood Today, Newsmagazine with Attitude presents coverage of the LA premiere of Batman, The Dark Knight Returns Part 1. Available now on Blu-ray, DVD, digital download, and on demand.
Mm-hmm. And what did you draw from, like, the amazing graphic novel Frank Miller that you wanted to capture in this? You know?
I mean, it's funny what I we looked at the source material. I mean, I know that thing from front and back. But one of the things I also did was I looked at how other directors had translated Frank Miller. So I looked at what Zack Snyder did on 300. I looked at what Robert Rodriguez did on Sin City. I looked at what Frank Miller later did in his graphic novels from 300, Sin City, ever since Dark Knight Returns, Daredevil, even go back to Daredevil, and I try to capture what is the Frank Miller storytelling, you know? And then when I then translated it, I wanted to try to give it that kind of more contemporary kind of feel to it, but still feel like a period piece. I wanted to make it still in the 80s, almost like Watchmen, where it's this futuristic version of the 80s, but at the same time stay true to what the spirit of the film is about.
Cool, thank you. And what research do you have to do to figure out how to play Commissioner Gordon?
You know, at first I didn't listen to anybody. I didn't do anything except my directors and producer. And then before I went back, then I had Frank Miller's collection. But that was after I had already recorded.
Oh, wow.
I just I knew Commissioner Gordon. I mean, I had a sense of what Gordon. And my son and I talked a good bit about Gordon.
Oh, wow. So your son had a pretty big role, kind of, like, making the character for you.
Yeah, we sat down and talked about Gordon. I said, tell me what your feelings are about Gordon.
Awesome. So this one, I mean, it's Frank Miller's classic graphic novel. It must have been pretty hard to find voices to match all this.
There are 33 actors in this piece, which is a record for me. That's more actors than I've ever cast in a single individual piece, ever. And it was a huge responsibility because it is such a fan favorite. And so what was really good about it is the book, the source material is so wonderful. And when you take a look at the model, the character design, and you read the story and you find out you need someone with some age and some depth to their voice and some texture of someone who's lived essentially in the bottom of a scotch bottle for the last decade. And Peter Weller, someone I've always wanted to work with, and it was just a perfect fit. So that was a very nice way to put that together.
So what were the challenges of, like, turning the amazing graphic novel into this awesome animation?
Sure. Well, yes, it is an amazing graphic novel. And there was a feeling of responsibility, and being my job to satisfy the people who are looking for a loyal adaptation, and even if I wasn't worried about other people's feelings, it would have been my intention to stay loyal to the source, because you don't need to change much. It's pretty awesome. At the same time, it was my job to adapt, to make this into a movie, so I had to pitch to Alan Burnett and Warner Brothers in DC how I was going to do that, structurally, how I was going to shuffle things around, how I was going to break up the two movies, where one was going to end and two was going to begin. And what I already know is kind of the most controversial choice, but I'm copying it to it being mine, so if people aren't happy, I'll take the letters, to remove all the inner monologue stuff. To not do it as voiceover, but I really had to pitch this to Alan in DC and get them to sign off on dramatizing these scenes, externalizing them, finding ways to get all of the ideas and be true to the ideas and be true to the themes in dialogue and in action, in character. And I really hope that people are satisfied with the result. It was my intention 100% to be true to what Frank put there on the page, but translate it to a new medium, and that meant it's a different animal.
So, what research do you have to do in playing Batman?
Well, initially I read Batman as a kid, but I read the DC comics when it became a thing of his comic.
Okay.
I had not caught up with the movies. After seeing the Keaton-Nicholson original film, I had not caught up to all the films, but I did know this, that they had kept the tone of the guy essentially as he was created for DC Comics in 1939, by being an isolated, by choice, emotionally bankrupt doer of good deeds. I mean, once realized the superior intellect and the superior wherewithal with cutting edge machines and technology, he could do good deeds. But they still, doing the good deeds, do not fulfill the void in his personal life.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the character. And
I think that's why people are drawn to him, because
I think so too.
Yeah, you know?
I think so too, because he's not a surface guy. There's something going on that we all wish, we all hope that Batman would have some sort of fruition of personal accomplishment.
Yeah. Well, he feels more comfortable being Batman than Bruce Wayne. You know?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
He can't be Bruce Wayne for too long because Bruce Wayne leads nowhere. But here's the irony: Batman leads nowhere either.
Yeah.
And that's the addiction. He has to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And you might stand back in the realm of heroism and go, golly, isn't it great we have Batman? Because society is winning with Batman on its side, but Batman itself will never fulfill the void in his soul like Bruce Wayne has by doing all these good deeds. It's a saying in Hinduism and Buddhism, you can do all the good deeds in the world, and yes, it benefits, but know that that's not it.
That's great. Man.
People think it's, the 7 steps to heaven, I know what I'll do. I'll pray. Oh, no, I know what I'll do. I'll study and I'll find out about the world. Oh, I know, the next thing to do is have compassion for the world. Next thing to do is do good deeds for them. But all of those things will never really fulfill the center of it, because the center of you is right now is a love quotient that Bruce Wayne ain't got, neither does Batman.